Scams in Bali, extremely common. Now, I'm going to tell you about 7 of them that I know of, some common, some not so known about, and how to avoid them. It can easily happen to anyone, and so even if you're conscious and aware, it can easily happen to you. The first one that you're going to come across is right when you arrive, and everybody's a target for this one. It's taxis, and especially the airport taxis. So right when you arrive in Bali, you're going to have to get to your accommodation, and it's usually not super close to the airport. It can be 30 minutes to an hour away, more depending where you're going. And directly in the airport, they're going to have several stalls, stands with different locations they can take you for quite a high price. And if you don't go to those stalls, you keep going, you leave the airport kind of towards the parking area, you will immediately get hassled by many people, asking you for a taxi, asking you where you're going, to the point that it's hard to even get out of there without agreeing to something. So if you know this, you can kind of just say, no thank you, no thank you, I have a ride, something. And make your way outside of the main area of the airport. They now have sections for Gojek and Grab, which are apps you can use to call a taxi, call a driver. If you don't have much luggage, you just have a backpack, you can actually call a motorbike taxi, which is super cheap, very cheap. And if you do have luggage, you have bags, you can just call a regular car using Gojek. Gojek is cheaper usually, Grab is another option though. It's just exponentially cheaper than using those taxis at the airport. And just go to the area where you're told to go to wait for Gojek, wait for Grab. There's signs there. You can just easily ask somebody if you don't really know where you're going. And even when you leave the airport, once you get to the area that you're staying, it's also going to be the same kind of deal. There's a lot of taxis around, known as taxi mafia, who are going to try and get you to get on their motorbike, get in their taxi, and they're not going to use a meter, and you're going to owe a lot more money than you should pay. So throughout the trip, use Gojek, use Grab, and it's going to save you a lot of money and just a lot of heartache for sure. So very important. There are also official Bluebird taxis. You'll see blue taxis around Bali, which some of them are illegitimate. They will be posing as a real Bluebird taxi, but they won't use a meter. So it's tough with those as well. I would say you can still use those. Just when you get in, make sure you confirm with them, hey, you're gonna use a meter, this is official Bluebird taxi, even though they would lie to you. But just confirm that they're gonna use the meter and you'll be fine. But for me, as much as you maybe want to support local taxis, you're still supporting locals by using Gojek and Grab. It's just a young guy or gal trying to make money as well. So yeah, that's the move. So the next scam involves motorbike rentals, as well as the petrol, the gas for the motorbike. I'm going to group them into one thing, as I'm just happen to be passing a motorbike rental sign right here. You'll see them everywhere. Main thing is, when you're renting the bike, you want to make sure you take a note of the scratches on the bike, dents, any issues the bike has. Take a full video of the bike. That's the best proof you have of anything that was already there. Take a picture of the mileage and maybe confirm some of those things with the person you're renting from, that they see them. Oftentimes, any legitimate renter is going to also take a video. And so, while it's not extremely common, I've seen it happen to people. And so it's always a good idea, take a video, take a note of what's going on with the bike. How many miles does it have? And you want to ask them if there's any limitations to what you can do with the bike, to where you can drive the bike. For me, for example, I drove my bike from Canggu to Uluwatu to Sanur, 1 hour or more each trip. So you just want to confirm with them first, if you plan on doing something like that, that you're allowed to drive to another region of Bali or something like that. Because sometimes they will try and say, oh, you put too many miles on the bike, you put too much kilometers on the bike, you owe us a fee, you owe us money. If they do try and pull something like that, and you didn't do anything wrong, you don't need to cough up that money. But it's better to avoid any problem like that in the first place and just clear it with them up front. And in regards to getting gas, getting petrol for the bike, always go to official gas station. There's a lot of sellers on the side of the road selling like bottles of gas that they'll fill up, or they have a machine that they will use to fill the gas. And while this does work and it will get you around, it's almost always going to be diluted, low quality gas, and you're going to pay much more even for that low quality gas. For me, it's very apparent when I go get gas at the official station versus the ones that they give me on the side of the road. The way the bike performs, it's a whole different thing. And it can damage the bike if you're consistently using that. And it just costs so much more to actually fill it up. So you can spend about half the money at the gas station for a full tank, and the bike rides really smoothly. So it's worth going a little bit out of your way to stop at an official gas station to get your gas. Now, the third scam involves a motorbike, but it's more so getting your phone snatched or stolen on the bike, as well as your purse. So when you're riding around, either driving or if you're on the back of a bike as well, don't hold your phone in your hand. Even using it on the GPS, kind of, secured to the front of the bike, people say it's a bit risky. I do it when I really need to use GPS, because I don't like checking constantly where to go, and I don't always know where I'm going. Use that at your own discretion. If you're going to use a GPS with the phone, make sure it's very secured, but just know it's going to make you maybe more of a target. I say especially as a female. I mean, more often than not, the problems that happen with phone snatching is for females. And especially for your purse, don't carry it on you, always put it inside the bike. That's a golden rule. I mean, this was happening a lot more during the pandemic when people were really down and out and desperate. You were hearing about this a lot in Canggu. And so, yeah, I've had friends that it's happened to. I've read on Facebook groups. And so, yeah, just avoid it. You don't want to make yourself a target ever, more than you need to. So even if you're riding on the back of a Gojek bike, I'd say using your phone, be quite cautious. I mean, people who look for that are not going to think twice just because you're with a local Gojek driver. They might still snatch it and quickly drive away. There's nothing that the driver is going to be able to do to help you, unfortunately. I'd say you can keep it in your pocket and have music. You have headphones linked to it in your pocket. I wouldn't worry about that. Not a problem. I haven't heard about anybody having their AirPods snatched or anything like that. It's usually electronics, purses, which may have money and credit cards inside. That's what's going to make you a target. So even walking around, I'd say, especially late at night, on the weekends, nightlife areas, especially if a lot of people are not around, and you just have your phone out, especially if you are drunk, I mean, it's gonna make you a target, and people may snatch the phone right out of your hands, just drive away. Usually they will be on a motorbike themselves, maybe 2 people on a bike, and just kind of do a drive-by type situation. So always be conscious and aware of your surroundings in Bali. It's a pretty safe place in general, but because of the overwhelming amount of tourists and the fact that it's like a heavy drinking place, it just makes it, yeah, at least common enough that you need to think about it. The 4th scam is SIM card scam. And while it's not necessarily a scam, if you try and get a SIM card at the airport, you're gonna pay 3-4 times the price. So I would always recommend, if you can, as soon as you walk out of the airport, you can go into a store, kind of like Circle K, like a mini market, and like get a SIM card there. It's an option. That's also what you can do to download Gojek, download Grab, and use it to order your taxi. Otherwise, you could also go without a SIM card just yet when you arrive, and either have a taxi driver take you to a sort of local mobile shop, like they sell phones, SIM cards, a lot of these kind of local places, especially in Canggu, pretty much any area you're in. Yes. And they're gonna have SIM cards for a much cheaper rate. Yes, YouTuber. Yes, good, how are you? Otherwise, there is a new option available now. It's not super new, but it's called an eSIM. And so if your phone has an eSIM in it, you can travel anywhere and get that activated and use that instead of having to put a new SIM card in. So you just have one SIM card in the phone that you can use anywhere you go and change it based on where you're at. That's an option too. I've never used that. I always just go grab one in the store when I get here. Usually get to my accommodation, I will take a walk and I will grab one. And there's been 2 times where I went to the shop directly outside of the airport, like a Circle K mini market type store, and got one there. So just avoid getting it at the airport. You know, if you really, really have to, either because it's late and you don't have an eSIM or for whatever reason, just go with the cheapest option first. And then once you get to a accommodation, once you get outside of the airport, you can go buy one that you want to use for the long term or for your whole trip. Because the more data you get on those, the price really racks up pretty quickly, and yeah, it's just not worth it. So avoid them. Scam number 5 is a big one, and that will be drugs. You're going to be offered drugs a lot, depending on how you look, depending on the area that you're in. But I'll say especially in Canggu, occasionally in Uluwatu as well, you know, Seminyak for sure, Kuta for sure. You will be offered all sorts of drugs, everything from marijuana, cocaine, pills like Valium, Xanax. Now, best thing I can recommend is simply not to buy any of them. You know, the most likely issue you're going to have is from the more illicit ones, marijuana, cocaine. I mean, oftentimes they are working with police, and so you will buy it right on the spot. Everything will seem okay. You'll go down the street, maybe you'll go around the corner or something, and all of a sudden you get stopped by police, and they immediately, they just, you know, they know you have drugs, and they search you and they find it, and then they want a huge bribe to get you out of trouble. The penalties are so harsh here that they know they can bribe you for a lot of money, and yeah, you don't want to end up either A, paying thousands of US dollars, you know, thousands of euros to get out of trouble, or going to prison in Indonesia, in Bali. It's definitely a reality that happens to people. And even if they are not working with police, if you happen to get caught with these drugs, using these drugs, or just having them on you, you're in a lot of trouble. Enough trouble that it's not worth doing here, you know? No matter how much you want to use these things here, even for something like mushrooms, I would simply avoid it. Not worth it. Now, definitely the more legitimate side of things is them offering something like Valium, like a prescription drug. Usually you'll find this in Seminyak. You know, they're kind of just walking around where the shops are. They'll kind of pull it out and show you this blister pack. You can get them, you know, it's probably going to be fine, but I don't recommend it. Anything else is extremely risky, and yeah, very often they're working with police. I just know from experience and having friends, the prescription stuff it's a little more loose, and it's them just trying to make a quick buck. But just avoid it. You know, get what you need at the pharmacy with your own prescription beforehand, or get whatever you need in the actual pharmacy here. Don't go to the streets for that stuff. Yeah, not worth it. I actually do know somebody who was in this villa party in Gili T, and you know, it was like an after party, and there was, I guess, a bunch of people there who were from Jakarta, and the place ended up getting raided by police because these guys were, I guess, wanted, you know, big time, kind of like more mafia guys, whatever. And yeah, they were super wanted, and the place ended up getting raided. And so the Westerners that I knew, they ended up getting in a ton of trouble, and you know, had to pay something around 30,000 US dollars to hire a lawyer, and they were kind of stuck being held in jail, in prison type situation for a little while. So yeah, not worth it, especially after hearing that story and, you know, kind of talking to this person like years after it happened. It actually took him a very long time to go through all of this situation and get back to the US. And of course now he never wants to go back to Bali or anywhere in Southeast Asia. But yeah, that would be traumatizing, and that, you know, whether you have the money or not, it's not something you want to deal with. So yeah, avoid that at all costs. Okay, scam number 6 is the money exchange scam. Definitely much smaller time than the last one, but more common, I'd say. So there's tons of money exchange places all around Bali, all the tourist areas, both authorized and unauthorized. And oftentimes they'll even write authorized money exchanger, and they're not. You know, it's just, there's no real, you know, I guess, policing for stuff like that. And so, yeah, they get away with stuff like this. Sometimes they even pay police. You know, you never really know what's going on. So always be cautious when you're exchanging your money. First, check the rates. They're gonna publish their rates there. You know, if they don't publish the rates, I mean, go somewhere else. But they should have the rates listed, and open up your phone and check that rate against what Google says. So if you're exchanging your US dollars to IDR, which is the local currency in Bali, just search, for example, 100 USD to IDR in Google, and it will give you an up-to-date official exchange rate on the market. And what you're paying, you want it to be somewhere close to that. Of course, you may pay a bit more for convenience, and just because you're not doing it at a bank, but it shouldn't be drastically off. So you have to decide if the amount you're getting, if it feels like substantially less, then maybe go somewhere else. And number 2 is, regardless of the exchange rate, once they actually exchange the money, you want to make sure to double check and count that money. Even if they count it in front of your face, oftentimes they are using some sleight of hand. You know, maybe they are verbally counting, but they're counting differently with their hands. And sometimes they will even throw some of the money under the counter, you know, behind where you can really see, and you're just not going to see it quick enough. Sometimes they're so good at it. And then they'll hand you this wad of money that is actually less than what they counted. So just double check in front of them. And if there's a discrepancy, tell them immediately. Say, I exchanged this amount, I only received this amount. Could you recount this, please? You know, and usually at that point they will give in, and they're not going to keep trying it. You know, if they do keep trying, maybe they will be persistent in saying that we gave you this amount or some, who knows. At that point, you kind of have to either accept it, or you can try and get law enforcement involved if it's a serious amount of money, or maybe threaten that toward them. But in my experience, if you kind of call them on what they're doing, or if you just show that you're not going to be susceptible to something like that, then you're not going to be such a target. So double count it right away. Yeah, just be mindful of it when you're going and exchanging money pretty much anywhere. And yeah, you can use a bank or Central Kuda Money Exchange, a place like that, which is a chain, for a little bit more peace of mind. But usually you're going to kind of have to use what's around you. Okay, the seventh and final scam. It is the overpriced massage and spa scam. This is most common in hotels, resorts, even shopping malls. So in Bali, there are tons of spas, you know, tons of massages. A lot of people love to get a massage every day when they're here, or also getting your nails done, getting a facial, something like that, a scrub. All of which are legitimate and great to go get. But you will often pay double, triple, quadruple, or more if you simply get it from your hotel, if you get it from a resort that you're staying in, if you get it in a big shopping mall or shopping center. You're likely going to pay substantially more. And the massages are not any better, oftentimes are not that great. So what I recommend is do your research first. Go to Google. Google reviews are going to be your friend with this, for sure. There are fake reviews out there, but more often than not, you can get a good idea if a place is good. And you can also get a list of their prices on their website. If a place doesn't list their menu and prices, it's annoying, but it's pretty common. So I would just grab the number. Instead of calling them, I will just add that to my contacts, send them a message on WhatsApp, and ask them, hey, how much for 90 minutes full body, or 90 minutes, you know, deep tissue massage? And they'll pretty quickly give you an answer how much it costs. And so you can use this to kind of compare places and just look at the Google reviews. You know, choose a place that has a good amount of reviews. You know, maybe pick out the top 3, 4, 5 places that are within a reasonable distance to you, and check out the reviews. You know, make sure they're legitimate. If they're all written the same exact way and broken English, they're probably not legit. If they're written by, you know, a bunch of different people, one looks like a Chinese tourist, one is a Russian person, one is a European, they're writing, it looks legitimate, and they're saying good things, it's probably legit. You know, you gotta kind of do your due diligence with this, because it's so competitive here that, you know, places are doing whatever they can to get seen and get business, especially if they're not good and their staff is not the best. Then they kind of need to do those things. So once you find the right place and you have a good experience, you're probably going to use that spot the whole time. So it's worth spending 20 minutes, 30 minutes even, finding the right place initially. I've gone to many places at this point. Sometimes I just walk in and it's a real mixed bag on how good the massage is. Even something like a manicure, where I thought, let me just choose something cheap and just walk in. How bad could they do for a manicure, for a men's manicure? And you know, you'd be surprised. Sometimes within a few minutes of them starting, I was like, oh, I've made a horrible mistake. So now I'm very specific with doing my research, going off reviews, and then typically going back to that same place over and over again. And even, you know, I'd say sometimes the same place, you might get a big different experience masseuse to masseuse. And so when you find one you really like, get their name. Next time, you know, message the place on WhatsApp, ask for that specific person, the amount of time you want, and choose a time, confirm the booking. It's going to give you peace of mind and you're going to have a good experience every time. So yes, that is my list of the most common scams and the ones that either have come up for me or people around me. And so yeah, just be aware, you know, just be aware when you're here. There's plenty of more things that I didn't really talk about that are maybe less common, but just be conscious. Be aware how drunk you're getting. That's going to make you the biggest target for pretty much anything. So subscribe if you enjoy the video. Drop a thumbs up. That's going to help me get more views, boost the channel a little bit. And I will see you tomorrow in the next video.